Okay.
So Craig, are you volunteering to be interim secretary?
I can do that if no one else steps forward.
Anyone else want the job? Okay, I'm pretty sure Tiffany's going to be here and she signed up for it, so it probably won't be for very long, but I'm going to go ahead and get started. We'll start with non-agenda public comment. Was anyone who has non-agenda public comment tonight, please. There's Tiffany. Please raise your hand. Okay, I see no one with non-agenda public comment tonight. So we will proceed. I have no modifications to the agenda. We need to adopt the previous meeting minutes and we'll call a roll at the same time. Tiffany, you ready to do that?
My computer just did an update, so I'm sorry. I'm trying to get restarted, so that's why I'm calling in from my phone. So it's just reloading right now. So I don't know if you have the list, if you can call the roll. Otherwise, you have to give me a minute.
Okay.
I apologize.
I think
Right.
Craig can do it. He's got everybody memorized.
Yeah,
Right.
sure. Well, I move we accept the minutes.
There's a second to that.
I'll second that.
All right. Were there any anyone have any changes, corrections? All right, then hearing none. I do want to get the roll, so we'll wait until Tiffany is back up to do that. In the meantime, we can move on to report of the chair. A fair amount of mail this month. Received several emails from Water Ridge residents regarding a project adjacent to them on Lusk Boulevard, which will replace several single-story buildings that are currently there with 4 buildings of 7 to 11 stories and 2 10-story parking lots. Because it apparently complies with all of the conditions for that area, it's undergoing a process 2 administrative reviews. So it's just being handled by internally by the planning department. So it's a pretty big project for something to be handled that way, but that's the way it's being handled. There's a Nora for a special event permit for the Soldier Ride San Diego. There's a cycling ride starting at Mira Mesa Climbing Gym on Mesa Rim Road, traverses several Mira Mesa streets, including Mira Mesa Boulevard, Flanders, Black Mountain Road, Miramar Road, and Camino Santa Fe. So no street closures, but some traffic delays are expected due to a lot of bicycles on the street. That's November 4th and 5th. Also in Nora for the special event permit for the Mira Mesa Invitational Band Review and Field Tournament. That's November 5th. Marauder Way will be closed all day. I received development plans for the Serrano Valley Golf Entertainment Center. We've seen that before and is proceeding along. Received site development plans for a project at 7306 Rock Canyon Drive. That's to build a second house on a large lot. Project overview for Mira Mesa Improv 1 project to rehabilitate aging sewer pipelines in Mira Mesa. That's on the agenda tonight. We received the first project review of the trucking transportation terminal at 9500 Curry Mesa Road. That's a site development permit for an 80,000 square foot trucking transportation terminal. I think we'll be seeing that one within the next month or 2. Also, site development plans for a Carroll Center car wash at Black Mountain Road and Carroll Center Road. An expansion of the existing car wash. I told him I didn't think we needed to review that one. So Tiffany, are you up?
I am. I can do that now. I'm sorry. Thank you for waiting. So,
Okay, just call the roll and people will say yes if they approve the minutes.
okay. Kent Lee,
Approve.
Andrew,
Approve.
Lilith,
Approve.
Ian,
Approve.
Craig,
Approve.
Ralph,
Ralph
Ralph's not,
Mhm.
okay. John,
Approved.
Joe,
Yes,
Barry,
Approve.
Jeff,
New visitor. New visitor. New
Sorry.
visitor.
I'm sorry, I keep hearing new visitor.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that's coming from. Did you ask me? I approve.
Okay. Dorothy,
Approve.
Keith,
Approve.
Julia,
Approve.
Marky, Marky on,
He was, although I don't see him right this moment.
okay, I'll just put him out.
Come back to him.
Yep. I approve. Marvin,
I don't see Mark.
Justin,
Approve.
Mike,
Approved.
and Philip.
Approved.
Thank you.
Okay, so Tiffany, if you're on both your phone and your computer, you should probably turn off the phone. So you
Yep.
can get,
I am on just the computer now.
okay. All right, well, the next item on the agenda is the community plan update recommendation. As most of you know, we've been reviewing the proposed community plan update for the past 3 years, and it's now coming to us for a recommendation. I'd like to thank Alex for his responsiveness and replying to many questions that I have sent him. And I'm going to share my screen now and show what our recommendations are. All right, is everyone seeing the presentation now?
Yes.
All right, so we had a subcommittee that met during the past month and assembled a set of recommendations. Subcommittee members, I'd like to thank. They're all listed here below. So the main purposes of the main goals of the subcommittee are these. They were to identify and correct problems with the proposed Mira Mesa community plan update. In particular, we're looking for deficiencies in public facilities, inconsistencies with city standards, wishful thinking, and unmitigated impacts. So I'm going to go back for a minute and talk about the last community plan update we did in 1992. This is the 1981 Mira Mesa community plan shown here on the right. As you can see, it's quite different. In particular, if you look over at the western half of the community, there is this large area here marked as recreational, and that's Arrow World. It was a plan to have old classic planes that would be available there and that would fly over Penasquitos Canyon and Lopez Canyon. It sounds like kind of a crazy idea now, but you remember at that time period, this was all vacant and it was a serious proposal for a while. But by the time we got to doing the community plan update in the late 1980s, that had already died and gone away. And so one of the things we had to do in that update was to replan all of the western half of the community, converting all of Serrano Mesa to prime industrial, including that former Air World site. Another goal we had, since we were deficient at that point, particularly in parks, was to add parks to new library and other public facilities to bring Mira Mesa up to city standards. And the third goal was to work with developers and property owners to define land uses throughout the community. Marvin Miles is now here. So this is what the 1992 Mira Mesa Community Plan looked like. This was a big improvement over the previous one. We did quite a lot. We expanded parkland, added several new neighborhood parks, created a new larger libraries. We had public facilities that were all funded with developer fees through the FBA program, and those were built in the intervening 30 years. We created a very successful prime industrial area in Serrano Mesa. Notice also that there are other good planning principles in it. Most of the community has a park and elementary school within either walking distance or a short drive. And commercial facilities are concentrated along Mira Mesa Boulevard, a short drive from most residences. And we also have the highest density development along Mira Mesa Boulevard. That's where most of the multifamily is, some of which was up to 42 units per acre. So this was a very successful plan, in my opinion. It did have a couple of weaknesses. At the time, bicycles were not really treated seriously as a form of transportation, so it's very weak on bicycle support. And also the Serrano Mesa area, while very successful, also was a big traffic generator. So the current plan update does try to deal with those issues and do those a little better. So here's the current plan update. Shown here on the right is the planned land uses over the whole community. So what are the primary goals here? The first goal was to add housing to meet state mandated housing goals. The city committed to adding a minimum of 10,000 to 20,000 units in its application to the state for funding of the plan update in March 2019. Now, it's still something of a sore point that they didn't actually tell us about this. We had to sort of figure it out, and eventually, not until this year did we actually see the grant application that said that. But it became pretty clear rather quickly that that's what the goal was. The other main goal was to comply with the climate action plan by reducing auto use and increasing transit, bicycle, and pedestrian modes of transportation. So these are reasonable goals, but it is deficient in that it didn't put the same priority on providing public facilities that we had when we did the 1992 update, where that was one of our biggest goals. So I'll go on to what our recommendations are. There are 13 of them. The first one is public facilities. Under guiding principles at the very beginning of the plan, it says investment in new public facilities to meet community needs, but there are no specifics about how this is to be done. So the plan needs to be accompanied by a public facilities financing plan with cost estimates, schedule, and funding mechanism for all of the public facilities identified in or implied by the plan. I'll point out that we've had this for the last 30 years. A very effective public facilities financing plan, and we had the FBA to fund the projects. The city has unwisely done away with the FBA, but if these are all built, they will generate $500 million in fees, and we should be able to get enough of that back to do a reasonable job of building the public facilities in the community. The second is transit. This is more along the lines of wishful thinking. Under guiding principles, again, the plan says a transportation network ensures safe, accessible, and efficient travel with a convenient, frequent, and user-friendly public transit network. Problem is, currently the transit network is very limited and there's no funding assured to improve it. The plan just kind of assumes that it will work. Transit is really very important in this plan, and so it needs to be taken to another level of detail. We need to ensure that you can get anywhere in the city using transit in a reasonable amount of time. And for that study and of course funding for transit. Would everyone please mute themselves if they're not actually speaking? Thank you. So any of you who've been to other areas where transit works, we know this can be done. New York City, Vienna, London, all have transit systems where you can even use Google Maps and just find your way to any place in the city, and it works. So if transit is going to be as important as the city wants it to be, we need to make that work. The third recommendation is for microtransit. So the proposed transit network is limited to major roads such as Mira Mesa Boulevard, and it's not easily accessible to many residents, particularly those who live in the Sereno Valley Boulevard Cayo Cristobal corridor. In addition to that, there are a lot of other people who aren't within easy walking distance of a transit hub or bus stop. So again, if transit is to really work, we need a microtransit network within the community to get people to the transit hubs. Now it is acknowledged in the community plan, but we need a more explicit plan to be outlined that is comparable in detail to those for the major streets. Fourth is traffic. So the EIR for this plan only considers vehicle miles traveled and has no analysis at all of traffic congestion. While that may meet the legal requirements, for the current residents, this is a big issue. The traffic study that the city did analyze congestion, and it looked very bad. It showed that all major intersections at rush hour are at level of service F. I sometimes get the impression that the city feels if you just make driving miserable enough that people will all take transit. But we know it doesn't work like that. What happens is if Mira Mesa Boulevard jams up, every parallel street, Capricorn, Gold Coast, Flanders, Hillary, all become extra lanes for Mira Mesa Boulevard, leading to even more congestion and also a safety hazard. So the city needs to do something to alleviate this, needs to complete a section of Carroll Canyon Road as soon as possible, and assess other traffic improvements around the community that reduce traffic congestion. Recommendation number 5 is water and sewer infrastructure. The EIR states that while San Diego has sufficient water to support the additional population, the water and sewer systems are aging and will need to be upgraded. Those need to be upgraded before problems occur, and so that again needs to be scheduled and budgeted. Number 6 is schools. The school demographers, the district demographers estimate that the new development, if it's all completed, will add 7,614 students to the schools. That would add 2,000 students to Mira Mesa High School alone. And the letter that the district wrote to the city says that it can't handle that with the current schools, and it doesn't have any long-range plans that can accommodate it. No school locations are identified in the plan, except for one elementary school site intended to support Stone Creek. So again, this needs to be taken seriously. Sites need to be identified for additional schools. Another issue with this is that while the plan is trying to get people to use transit and bicycles and walk, there are no schools within walking distance of any of the industrial areas where new housing is now planned. So we would want, I think, at least an elementary school in either of those areas. In any case, we need to plan for this and make sure it works. 7 is parks. The EIR has a section titled Deterioration of Existing Neighborhood Parks and Recreational Facilities. I won't read this whole thing, but basically it says that if additional park facilities aren't built, that there will be deterioration of the existing parks because of overuse. It also says that the total number of recreational value points is 3,000 short compared to what the city has says it requires in the Parks Master Plan. It was just approved last year. Well, the value standard was established in the Parks Master Plan to make it easier to meet than the previous acreage requirement. So it's inexcusable to develop a new community plan that falls 3,000 points below the new standard. The plan should be amended to identify an additional 3,000 points of park value. There are population standards for recreation centers. We're way short on those. According to city standards, we should have 5.7 recreation centers once all of the new population is in. We currently have 2, one of which is shared in Miramar College and 1 planned. So we're far short of 5.7. Similarly, for aquatic complex is supposed to serve a population of 50,000. We have 1 that's under construction and 1 that's shared with both Miramar College and Scripps Ranch. So we need a location and funding for 1 more additional aquatic complex. All right, so this one identifies some things that are needed now. These are public facilities that are in the adopted community plan that have not been finished. And with the termination of the FBA program, as well as increased costs, these are now in jeopardy. So we need to get these funded and built as soon as we can. The most important ones are listed here. 1 is the Aquatic Center and other improvements at Mira Mesa Community Park. This is in progress, but not yet fully funded. Second is the Recreation Center at Three Roots Park that was actually moved from Mira Mesa Community Park when the Three Roots site became available. Third is the piece of Carroll Canyon Road between Camino Santa Fe and Carroll Road. It's been designed and a feasibility study done. It has an estimated cost of $40 million, much higher than what we had in the FBA. There may be state or federal money available for this. That needs to be pursued. Fourth is Canyon Hills Park. This site was purchased for a park in 1989 at considerable cost to the FBA, and a GDP was developed recently. That needs to be finished. Finally is renovation of the recreation center and pool at Hourglass Park. So people may not realize that the city has a 99-year lease on the property at Miramar College, where all of the fields and the pool and field house are. But when they gave us that lease, they thought, well, these may wear out over time. And so there's a requirement in it that at 55 years, which is in 2044, to continue with the lease for another 44 years, there needs to be renovation of the recreation center and pool. There was money in the FBA to pay for part of this. This can't be overlooked, or Mira Mesa could lose one of its most important recreation sites. 11 is the Canyon Trail System. Several new trails have been added to the community plan. These trails are a welcome addition to the community. But again, we need funding sources and a mechanism for funding the trail enhancement to be specified. The plan does a pretty good job of bicycle protection, but in some places we need more of it. In particular, on Serrano Valley Boulevard and Cayo Cristobal, although they are planned for Class 4 bike lanes, we may need something a little more sturdy to keep the cars out of the bike lanes. Also, as with all of the other public facilities, these need to be funded, and there's currently no funding mechanism. The plan actually calls for developing these whenever an area is repaved, but that could lead to a patchwork of bike lanes that won't really work very well. So we probably want to do these in a more consistent manner than that. All right, so the last item on here is unpredictability. So over the last 30 years, Mira Mesa developed in accordance with a community plan that allowed us to predict the type and location of development in the future population, and to site and fund facilities needed to support the new population. Consequently, the Mira Mesa community today looks very much like the community plan developed 30 years ago. In contrast, the proposed plan has a wide range of future population, and so far, no property owner or developer is actually committed to building the urban villages proposed in the plan. So the future population could then be anywhere between 90,000 and 144,000. So how do we plan for this? So we need a financing and phasing plan that will build as much of this infrastructure as possible early and plan for the additional population, then phase in the rest of the improvements as the population grows. Just to summarize then, recommendations here are to address deficiencies in public standards, inconsistencies with city standards, wishful thinking, and unmitigated impacts. The purpose of this action that's before us tonight to approve these is to make the planning commission, the city council aware of these deficiencies and to encourage the city to address the issues raised. So with that, I'll enter these recommendations as a motion and we can proceed.
I'll make a second on that motion, Jeff.
Second. from
Okay.
you. Questions?
Was that Craig that seconded that? I'm sorry, I didn't, or was that Jeff? I'm
That
sorry.
was Joe.
Joe,
Joe.
thank you. Thank you. Okay, wasn't sure.
I was muted.
Thank you, sorry.
Jeff, I'd like to make a couple of comments. One, perhaps the Sereno Valley Boulevard and Cali Cristobal bike lanes. They are there. They do have a buffer zone, but any of us who drive those routes routinely, which I do, and so do others, note that cars weave into them. I think very frequently would be an understatement. Some people drive down them. Now, the class 4 ultimate protection are these flexible little barrier posts that, yes, will be there, and yes, they will be visible. But whether that will be enough, because I think over the last 25 years or so, there have been somewhere between 5 and 10 individuals killed from auto accidents on those two main thoroughfares, which are really just an extension, of course, of one street. One thought that came to my mind is rumble strips, which are very effective because when you drive over them, they sort of make your teeth chatter a bit and thus get some attention, and they are probably relatively inexpensive. And given that those are, I think, quite easily installed, melting the asphalt to create them, that it would certainly be good to have an experiment done to see if that actually deters some of the, I would just call it careless driving on Sereno Valley Boulevard and Cali Cristobal.
Okay, if no one objects, I may add a little bit to that recommendation just to include that. Michaela asked me if you can repeat slide 11. Do you mean the school slide, which is the 11th slide, or the one with recommendation number 11?
Recommendation 11. It was after the prioritization of project slide and before the buffered bike lanes. It was something about funding sources.
Yes. Okay. So recommendation 11 was the canyon trail system. So this is something in the community plan we actually like very much. There were a number of new trails added. And they are listed in the community plan. But the problem with this, as with many other things in the plan, is there's no funding mechanism for them. So again, if we can get a public facilities financing plan, we can add these to them and get some of the developer fees that will come from all this, then we should be able to satisfy that one. Did that answer your question? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Are there, get back to where the screen is, let's see. Oh, that's why, there we go. Dorothy?
This is kind of a comment, but it's also a question. You know, if the city was required to come up with 10 to 20,000 new units, why have they put such a large proportion of them in Mira Mesa? And why haven't they considered other communities? I mean, maybe they have, I'm just unclear. Why is it so heavily dependent on Mira Mesa?
It's not, we're not alone on this at all.
Oh, good.
We're adding some 50,000 units to University City. And they're
Really?
basically going to go through and do this in every community where they do a community plan update. Am I right, Alex?
Yes, it's correct. So the city's RENA target, Regional Housing Needs Assessment target for 2019 is over 100,000 units.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's to just meet the deficit today. So that's just 10 years. Yeah, but Jeff is correct. The University City is proposing up to 50,000.
Wow. Okay, I understand then.
Yeah.
Keith, you have your hand up.
Yeah, real quick. We talked about this once before, but the improvements to the freeway system, especially in the Serrano Valley area, the access to 5.
Yeah.
And is there any way to make that more overt in the plan? I mean, it got kind of danced around on the answer we asked earlier on. I don't know if there's been subsequent information put in on that one, but I think that's a major issue. As an issue 20 years ago, it's an issue that's going to be growing.
Yeah, we did have some effort to resolve that a while ago that just sort of ended. So, Alex, you have any comment on that? You know, he's talking about where people get off of I-5.
Yeah, super familiar with it. It's outside of the Mira Mesa community planning area. It's in Torrey Pines community planning area. So that's kind of the issue. We could still identify it, as a policy, but that kind of was the main constraint because it was outside the boundary. But we've been working with Sandag. So Sandag has a grade separation plan. But with the whole Del Mar bluff collapse and the tunneling in Del Mar, there's a whole new kind of concept and realignment of that whole rail system. So as part of that, that's going to be a major improvement. That's probably going to be prioritized. They have to move it from the bluff first in Del Mar.
Yeah, there's an issue of having to move the coaster station in order to do that at one point. I forget the details exactly, but there were plans to do that also. So, all right, Barry.
I guess mine is a comment or an observation. As you mentioned, every community in San Diego, as their plan comes up for redo, is being asked to absorb a number of housing units because we as a city are short of housing and need to bring it online quickly. My greatest concern with the way this community plan update is laid out is the things that can be included in the plan seem to be only where to add more housing, and the things that we are told cannot be included in the plan are all of the things required to support this housing with a decent quality of life. And I only got here in 2008, but I had the good fortune to meet a lot of people who have been here since the sad beginning of Mira Mesa. And what they all related to me is that back in 69, 70, Mira Mesa came online specifically to meet the housing shortage in the city of San Diego. And we know how well that went. We are still recovering for the debacle that was the early development of Mira Mesa. We just broke ground, I believe, a week ago on a rebuild of Gold Coast because the developers and the city were in such a hurry to accommodate this new housing that street was built incorrectly. The roadbed underneath was deficient. It is now collapsing and needs to be replaced to the tune of $12 million, where we had to wait on those bonds to be sold to get the money to repair the street. And we know there is more here. Gold Coast and Parkdale are only the beginning. We don't know what else is out there. And my fear is that this plan, because it can only include the changes to allow development of all these additional housing units, but cannot require any kind of improvements to support all of these housing units, déjà vu. That is the only thing I can say is déjà vu. I am worried we will be back on the same track that led to someone running for mayor on the theme of no more Mira Mesas. And it's also very sad that at a time when we are experiencing a spike in homelessness, particularly amongst our senior residents, that two of the properties that are targeted for redevelopment at high levels of density are the only two dedicated housing areas for seniors. So I am really not excited by this. I understand the need for additional housing units and fully support that. But if we don't find a way to require that the backbone of our community be built at the same time, we're going to end up just like the early residents of Mira Mesa, with lots and lots of housing and very little support for traffic, etc.
I'll just jump in there. What Barry was talking about, it's the mobile home parks. You have 2 mobile home parks in Mira Mesa, and they are slated, just look at the new report, to be wiped out. Eminent domain, they're going to take them out. So where are all those people going? And part of the, Jeff will tell you that they have no provision about relocation or anything. So I have a number of clients that are in there and they're like, what the heck's going to go on? So
There is a process, and Alex can tell you about it because he shared it with me, but it does not require that those people who are relocated even remain in this area.
Yeah, so can I answer, I guess, the biggest, challenge about the implementation, right? The public facilities financing plan and the FBA system worked really well for Mira Mesa and this community, right? Because of the history. And the constraint is the city council adopted the citywide, development impact fee framework in August of this year, which completely reformed the community-based financing implementation mechanism. So, that is a challenge because it's a new approach and a new way to do this. So that's kind of beyond this community plan update, but I think it's important to let the decision makers know, your concern and recommendation related to that. Because if you remember when we started 4 years ago, that public facilities financing fee component was the third leg of a stool in the planning process.
Yeah.
So, but that's just out of my hand, right? As I'm not the decision maker here.
So we understand, Alex, this is beyond the scope of what you can do. And I guess maybe this is my personal no confidence vote on the new system. I think it's going to fail us. And I think it's going to be ugly.
So, noted and recognize that. So the community plan does outline and first identify new infrastructure improvements. So, as part of the draft plan, we'll have the appendix with mobility improvements, and all the park improvements are also listed in the table. And there's over 157 mobility improvements in projects that will be outlined, right? So the first step is to identify future infrastructure needs, and this plan does that for the next 20, 30 years. Regarding housing without infrastructure, public facilities, so ultimately, I think this vote is about, do we continue community-based planning and, try to incentivize on-site park development and mobility infrastructure through, redevelopment in the urban villages area? Or the question is, do you let state? So state just recently passed AB 2011, which allows up to 80 dwelling units per acre in the commercial corridors like Mira Mesa by right. So this is mixed use affordable housing with certain requirements, labor agreements and livable wage and whatnot. But beyond that, anyone can come in to existing commercial areas based on the new state law, which comes into effect next year, to build affordable housing anywhere along commercial corridors. Again, 80 dwelling units per acre, which is much more higher density than what's proposed in this plan, and up to 65 feet, so the height wise. So the state is moving on, with their own process and new regulations as well. So just be aware that that's also happening, including the SB 9 and allowing 4 units in single family zones. We didn't propose in this community plan to change the single family zones because we heard loud and clear that was not what the community wanted, right? The direction wise. We also completed modeling before SB 9 was completed. So, a lot of the kind of community desire is recognized in the draft plan. And finally, I know there is a park deficit in terms of the point system, but remember, Mira Mesa is getting over 58 acres of new parklands and 17 miles of new trails. And 25% of Mira Mesa is canyons, open space. This is incredible abundance of natural assets that Mira Mesa has, not to mention Los Penasquitos Reserve, 4,000 acres of, beautiful canyon lands right above the community. So compared to other community plan areas in the city, Mira Mesa is getting a lot of great future improvements that, these other communities can only dream of. So just some context looking at things citywide. None of the past plan updates have ever been able to meet the park thresholds. So that's another, consideration with the priority with the housing. So that's my comment.
So Alex, I appreciate the comments, but the city should make an effort to meet its own standards when it does a community plan update. We did in the 1992 plan actually meet the acreage requirement. There are a few things that didn't work out over time, like the park by Challenger that was covered with vernal pools, but it did actually meet it. And I don't see any reason, there are lots of ways you can find 3,000 points. You just have to want to do it. I also think, they're doing this all over the city, but we're actually the first one. After us, there's University City, Claremont, Hillcrest. They got a bit of a trial run with Kearny Mesa, but it's not really the same thing. So we really need to insist they do this right. That's the point of these recommendations, is that these things aren't going to happen for free. We need these public facilities financed. We are generating developer fees. Is probably going to take some additional money beyond that, but if the city wants to bring in this much housing, this much new population, then we just have to make them understand they have to come up with the money to make that work. So I would really like to get a unanimous vote on this motion so we can go forward to the city. I say this is what they've got to do.
Jeff, could you repeat the motion, please?
Well, the motion is all the recommendations is in my presentation. Right,
so is your motion to approve the plan with those recommendations or just to implement your recommendations?
Yeah, we discussed that a bit. It's really to implement the recommendations. The city basically, they really can't not approve the plan because they committed to it before they ever got started. A lot of us are not very comfortable with a lot of the things that are in the plan, but I think the right approach at this point is to go forward with this set of recommendations and see if we can get the funding we need to make this work.
So then you are recommending, your motion is to implement or put all those recommendations within the plan, but not actually approve the plan?
It doesn't say whether to approve the plan or not, and that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Oh, can I just comment? I mean, first off, I want to say thanks to the subcommittee for actually spending the time to draft all these recommendations up. I know, I think in the planning process, I think what we've probably all seen, and obviously I get the benefit these days of having spent a lot of time at people's doors in Mira Mesa over the last year or so and getting to chat with a number of folks. But, you know, I think one of the biggest conversations that tends to always come up is, you know, how we're viewing this plan update in terms of capacity, you know, in terms of the capacity we're creating for the community, but then also trying to figure out what part of it is feasible. And I think in the recommendations, a lot of what I continue to see that I think is exactly what, you know, keeps being asked is, how do we know what's feasible in terms of what time frame, and then how do we plan the actual infrastructure and needs within the community to match up with that? And so I think I'm most curious that even with these recommendations afterwards, how we can work to really map some of that out, because we know that not everything that's in the plan capacity wise is going to come to fruition, and some of what's outlined in the recommendations even are going to require, you know, significant work outside, even beyond the city. I mean, I just look at like stormwater infrastructure as a good example, where our deficit as a city is, you know, pretty vast, and between that and like even completing Carroll Canyon Road, I imagine that we're going to need to secure funding far beyond the city's capacity to actually accomplish some of these projects. And so I think if there's some way in which the planning group moving forward, you know, as the implementation comes into play, can sort of think about how we map out the feasibility, you know, the time frame for what we're anticipating, and then be able to tighten the capital improvement projects that we want to recommend, and the, you know, different priorities we have moving forward, that might actually be helpful in the overall implementation. And thanks to whoever brought up the idea of adding bike lanes on Serena Valley Boulevard. That was something I thought was really neat to see added as a recommendation here. I mean, protected bike lanes, since I drive that route all the time as well.
That
You
would
know
be me.
One of the things we have to consider is this plan is planning for failure. All right, they're doubling the population, and they're doubling the amount of deficit for recreation stuff in Mira Mesa. The state has mandated that we do this. The city council, no matter what we do, is going to vote this thing through. We need to stick with these points that Jeff put up, that the committee put out, to point out the deficits in what this plan is doing. There's no way this can be successful. It's started off bad and it's going worse. There's no way any of this can get done that's going to benefit our community without making it worse. So whatever we can do to raise the alarm on this thing is, I think these recommendations that the committee did is spot on. We need to send that in. Hopefully they'll read those. But regardless, I'm sure the city's going to approve this, and, you know, it's going to be up to us to continue fighting for the next 30 years.
I think the key, and following on to what Kent said, you know, what you described there, Kent, is a public facilities financing plan. And that's the way we've done things over the past 30 years. You make a list of all the public facilities that are in the plan, you make cost estimates for them. You look at what funding you have, and then you schedule them in time so that over the period of the community plan, you get built. Now, when we had the FBA, which was constructed to exactly match that public facilities financing plan, it made it a lot easier. Now we have to go to the city and beg, but if we have the public facilities financing plan in place, we at least have a basis for it. Michaela, you're with the mayor's office. Do you have any comments on this?
I'm taking my notes. So, I mean, when you say you hope that the city will consider them, I'm gonna email them to our staff right after, and the mayor reads my report every week. So he will review it if that ends up, whatever ends up being the vote. I think from elected representative standpoint, it takes the leaders to know what the community is advocating for. Because when we're in the room and making decisions about where funding is going, you know, you have an advocate for, while we have the citywide park fund that has changed, the mayor committed in the beginning that the communities that are committing to adding more units to their communities would be prioritized as part of that. And so when you're deciding where money is going to who in the city, that's definitely a consideration. So I hope that's not lost. And I know that Mira Mesa feels that they're often overlooked in terms of like climate equity index and communities of concern. Barry had mentioned seniors that are adding to the homeless population. Those are all and can continue to be part of the policy work into where does Mira Mesa fall within the citywide funds. So I don't know if there's any specific questions for the mayor's office, but please know that the feedback will be relayed to the, Alex is here and he's been working with you guys for a long time. And he was right in terms of the public facilities financing fund, from my understanding, is kind of not getting phased out throughout the state. And I don't think it's likely for that to come back. And so it would really go to the advocacy of your elected representatives.
I think they should reconsider that. There's really no other way to make a plan like this work. I mean, otherwise you are every year just sitting there with a bunch of requests and trying to figure out which ones to fund. You know, we have a 30-year plan here. In fact, what the city sent to the school district was a 50-year plan. We can't do this one bit at a time. We need a plan that covers all of the public facilities in it that we can schedule. Otherwise, this just isn't going to work.
Jeff, could I ask something about the Carroll Canyon Road alignment? So, you know, as part of the Mira Mesa plan update, you know, we were able to initiate the study of the segment the city's responsible for building south of El Camino Memorial Park. You know, that study is almost complete, I think complete early next year. We came up with two alternatives, cost estimate and environmental study. Will be required to bring project closer to construction. But I believe that we are planning to come to this committee next month to give a status update on the alignment study November and just kind of lay out all the steps it takes to get that road completed. So just FYI on that.
Yeah, they are on the agenda for November.
Great.
The biggest step is funding. All right, Lil, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to, I think it was number 12, where I added in about the buffered bike lanes on the 5+ mile stretch of road. I know you said something, you might rework that, but I kind of like it as is because that stretch of road is already, because of the way it's shaped, it's a racetrack. I mean, people fly down there 70 miles an hour, and you know, I think it's really imperative that they're buffered, like somehow. I Craig's suggestion, I don't know, but I like kind of having some columns or something to deter people, because if they see them along the road, they'll be aware that they're there. And we want people to get out of their cars. And I think it's important to leave it the way it is if you can.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Yeah, can I just mention this? So the draft community plan identifies Sorrento Valley Boulevard and Cayo Cristobal as a class 4 cycle track, which means it, will provide horizontal and vertical barriers between motorists and cyclists. So this is recommended by this committee.
Right. I think I noticed that, and it was Craig and Lil who brought that up, and I asked him if we just overlooked that, but the issue is having something solid enough that you actually keep the automobiles out of the bike lanes. I don't know if is that part of the plan, or those rubber barriers they have are not that sturdy.
Yeah, I mean, it would be helpful to have the little addition to, really make it a concrete kind of separated bikeway, I guess, instead of the plastic separators. Well, I think that's what Lil was talking about, is the plastic separator. Even that, I think, would be helpful, right? Which is
it would be helpful, because if we get some kind of transit too up there, I mean, there's no parking, but it would just be like maybe 5 stops around that 5-mile stretch, or however they decide to do it. It would be, if it was a permanent, then a transit couldn't pull over and pick people up. So, but yeah, anything. I was trying to figure out what they meant by a cycle for track. I was, it was a little confusing to me. So that's why I added into this recommendation.
Okay. Are there any other questions? All right, in that case, we'll vote on the motion. Tiffany, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, of course. Kent Lee,
Approve.
Andrew,
Approve.
Lilith,
Approve.
Ian,
Approve.
Craig, Jackson.
Approve.
Ralph never did join us, did he?
No.
Yes. Okay. John
Approve.
and Joe seconded the motion, so I have you down as approved. Barry?
Approve.
Jeff made the motion. Dorothy?
Approve.
Keith?
Approve.
Philip?
approved.
Julia?
Approve.
Parky? Did he make it?
Approved.
Oh, thank you. I approve. Did Marvin join us?
I'm here. Yes, approve.
Okay, thank you, Marvin. Justin?
Approve, and I want to thank the subcommittee for a job well done.
Thank you.
And Mike?
I think because of Stone Creek, it's best for me to abstain.
Okay. All right.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Now we'll see if we can get the city to actually do some of this. So. Alex, Michaela, we're gonna need your help. We got it?
Shout out to Alex. I mean, great. I know it's been a lot of work, and there are a lot of planners in the city, and Alex has dedicated a lot of time on this with a subcommittee. I know that there are these additional recommendations, but at the same time, Alex really thought through what the group's feedback had.
The good news is both of you are young and will be around for the next 30 years. So don't change your jobs.
No, I would like to comment that I do appreciate Alex's efforts, and the old adage, don't change horses in the middle of the stream, seemingly doesn't apply to politicians who will just change horses on you in the middle of the stream, so that all of the assumptions made with regard to financing are undermined halfway through the project. Alex, thanks.
I like to second Craig. Thank you for what you do. You get to take the brunt of our frustrations and our concerns. You have a job to do, and you've done it magnificently. The things that we have concerns about are not something that you are able to do anything about, but you've taken all of our comments, included everything that you could, and have made the suggestions from what we've mentioned to those who can hopefully take care of it.
I'll piggyback on that too. Thank you so much, Alex, for everything. It's greatly appreciated.
All right.
Alex, do you get a raise now? What's it?
Nope.
Are you going to do any more of the community plan update meetings?
What's that, Jeff?
Are you going to do any more of the community plan update meetings?
Probably another community. Yeah. Mid city's next. So
Are you doing that one too?
I have not been assigned, and
Okay.
yeah, we'll see. Other plan updates, these and my assistants as well. So yeah, we'll see where it goes.
Well, if you send us all emails saying whether you want us to approve you for that project or not, let us know. Then we can back you if you want, but if you don't, just let us know.
All right, thank you all for that one. That's been a long time coming. We do have a couple more items of business. Scott Sanfilippo, are you here?
Hi there, yes. Yes, I've got a quick presentation for you guys, just on a sewer rehabilitation job we have coming through the Mira Mesa neighborhood. Should start to help on some of those goals in your community plan update, hopefully. All right, I'm just gonna share my screen with you really quick. It's a very brief presentation, just a handful of slides. It's not a very complicated project, and I'm happy to field any questions afterwards. Host disabled participant screen sharing.
Yeah, I can fix that. Just a second. Okay.
All righty, here we go. All righty, can you all see?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the Mira Mesa Improv 1 project. I'm Scott Sanfilippo. I work at City of San Diego Engineering and Capital Projects Department. I'm the project engineer for this project, and the project manager, Jericho Gallardo. Just some background information. City of San Diego has over 3,000 miles of sewer pipelines to provide wastewater services to businesses and residents. Sewer infrastructure needs maintenance, replacement, and rehabilitation as it ages. Mira Mesa Improv 1 project will rehabilitate the aging sewer pipelines in Mira Mesa area of San Diego. It will replace 0.04 miles of existing pipe with new 8-inch sewer pipe. It will rehab 1.6 miles of 8-inch sewer mains, rehabilitate 46 manholes, rehabilitate 230 existing sewer laterals, and it will also install new curb ramps that improve mobility access for people with physical disabilities. Here's the project location map for you. I've listed the impacted streets here in case you guys might recognize them. I won't read them off, but I have provided your chair with information fact sheet regarding this project. So if you guys are curious about that, your chair can provide that to you. The project benefits are to improve sewer reliability and minimize risk for costly sewer line pipeline breaks, stoppages, and spills by making smart investment proactively. We're approaching final design in December 2022, and in fall of 2023, we anticipate having a contractor selected and beginning construction. We anticipate this project will be completed by summer 2024, and the construction budget for this project is $2.1 million. If at any time there's any issues while the project is in construction, you have any concerns, this is contact information for myself and the project manager. You can reach us here and we reply right away. It goes right to us. So that is the end of that. I'm happy to take any questions now if you have any.
Are there any questions? So I may have missed it. Where exactly is this?
This is in Mira Mesa. Let me look at the street. I manage a bunch of projects, so it's New Salem Street between New Salem Courts and Deering Street, essentially, and a variety of other locations.
Okay.
Yep, and so we're just rehabbing the pipe. When you're doing asset management, you need to have a lot of tools in your tool bag. to keep things moving. And for this particular project, we've looked at the pipes and their structural stability is fine, but they are getting up there in age. Most of them are about 50 years old. So rehabbing the pipe, we just put a coating, spray on coating, and it allows the pipe to last probably another 20 years. So just extending the useful life of these pipes. And then obviously at some point in the future, go in and replace those. But when you do a rehab job, you get to spread your money a far away because you get to extend the useful life of the infrastructure. It's way cheaper than going in, digging up the street and all that.
Okay.
It's all based on the existing condition of the pipes. If the pipes were in worse condition, then it'd be tear them out, put them back in. These pipes look pretty all right. So that's the project essentially.
Okay. Any other questions?
I think the good news is it all goes downhill.
Yes. There's graphic.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
We'll go on to project 1064740 065 and a third Westbury wireless communication facility. No, I didn't get the name of the person who's presenting that. Are you here?
Hi, Jeff. It's Michael Hadland with Charter Communications. I'm gonna go ahead and share my.
Michael, can you repeat who you were with again? I'm sorry.
He said Charter Communications.
Charter, thank you.
For some reason, my microphone is muting when I share my screen. So I have to figure that out. But again, thanks for having me tonight, Chairman, and the rest of the Mira Mesa Community Planning Group. My name is Michael Hadland with Charter Communications. We are here again. I know we were here 2 months ago. Just a little refresher. What we are doing in Mira Mesa right now, California Public Utilities Commission issued that decision requiring us wireline providers to have 72 hours of backup power on our communication facilities in Tier 2 and Tier 3 fire threat districts. Mira Mesa does fall under that Tier 2, Tier 3 fire threat district. So we are adding resiliency to our communication facilities to some of our units there in Mira Mesa. This current site is going to be at 8065 a third Westbury Avenue. Let me see if I can share this now because I just want to show you the site here.
There you go. Twinsies.
Would anyone mute who's not?
Let me see it.
Please.
That's me.
Are you guys seeing my screen right now? Are you seeing the?
Yes, we are.
Okay. So this is going to be the battery backup facility that we will be constructing right next to our current site. This is in the public right of way on our easement. As you can see, we've notified the property owners as well as everybody on this list right here that this will be going in. The dimensions sit at 52 by 26. And this will just continue to add resiliency to all our communication facilities, being able to call 911 or under an emergency or 211 to get all of your quick and easy information if there's anything going on in the area. Happy to take any questions or clarifications. I also have Juan and Hadi help answer.
I think you lost your presentation there. It was up for a second.
Oh. So we have this right here.
So you're just putting another power supply next to the existing one?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's just listed under a wireless communication facility. That's what we have to categorize it as when we're going to the city for this permit. But it is just backup battery installation right next to our current facility.
Okay. All right, you can stop sharing your screen now. And you see Lil has her hand up.
Yeah, this looks different than the picture you had last time with the garden and everything. So did you take our
This is a new site. This is a new
concerns?
site. This is not the same site from
Oh,
last time.
oh, it's not the same site. I was like, it looked totally different. Okay, ignore me.
Apologies for that. It's confusion. No, this is a new site.
This is an action item. So we need to approve or disapprove this. Are there any more questions?
Well, I had one more question, Jeff. We approved the one on Valdosta Avenue 2 months ago with the recommendation that they put the power thing to the west of the current installation. Did you pass that on to the people that are going to do this project, or do we have to get the neighbors to rally around when they try to do this?
We did contact the current occupant with that garden and that fence. And there actually was a lot more going on than the last time we went there to take a photo, and they really did not want us to take out their fence. We're currently taking that back for redesign, and we'll be coming back to you guys with a new design later on. But we're reworking that design for you.
All right, thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Looking at the pictures and the layout, this seems to me to be really quite simple.
Yeah, this one was a lot easier. The easement's just in a really great spot there. Doesn't seem to be really affecting many of the households around there.
Yeah.
We get a motion on this one?
I move we approve.
Motion from Craig, second.
Second, Andrew.
Second from Andrew. All right. I guess Tiffany, go ahead, call the roll.
Sure. Kent Lee,
Approve.
Andrew,
Approve.
Lil,
Approve.
Ian,
Approve.
Craig, I got you as the motion. John,
Approve.
Joe,
Approve.
Barry.
Barry had to leave.
Oh, she did. Okay. So I'll just make a note. Jeff,
Approve.
Dorothy,
Approve.
Keith,
Approve.
Philip,
Approve.
Julia,
Approve.
Harkey,
Approve.
I approve. Marvin,
Approve.
Justin,
Approve.
and Mike.
Approved.
All right, you may proceed.
Thank you all.
You're coming. Nice if they were all like that one.
Yes.
We'll go on to elected officials. Anyone here from Congressman Peters' office? I think so. State Senate, I don't see Diana. Assembly, I don't see Rob. For supervisors, Amanda here.
And FYI, Rob is no longer going to be with Mainshine. He is now going to work for San Diego Gas Electric.
Yes, I heard that.
And then Mira Mesa will have Assembly Member Chris Ward. So the Assembly Member will change with the redistricting.
Right. Okay, Michaela.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Michaela Volk from Mayor Talgloria's office. As Alex had mentioned, we've been working with staff on I'm super glad that the feasibility study for Carroll Canyon Road is finished. I know that that's been a priority to Mira Mesa, and as was mentioned in the community plan update discussion, and related to that, the kind of the pressure to get that done was we have seen a lot of funding grant opportunities with the state and the federal government, especially around infrastructure and transit. Mayor Goria, before he became mayor, using his assembly experience, wanted to make sure the city was getting their fair share. And over this past year, we did have a 62% funding increase from state and federal grants. And so we will be looking at what we can go after to help fund the actual construction for Carroll Canyon Road. So I did want to mention that. Something for Joe to know and others that are interested. On November 3rd, Parks and Recreation is going to host a Opportunity Fund Policy Development Public Input Workshop. It is going to be hybrid, so November 3rd at 6 p.m. At the Mira Mesa Recreation Center, and then also via Zoom. As we were mentioning, this is one of kind of the implementations with the new Parks Master Plan. So it's important that the community is aware of how that's being implemented, and then also.
What's the date on that again, please?
November 3rd at 6 p.m. And then on a homelessness front, Barry did reach out to the various elected representatives, and next month at the Mira Mesa Town Council meeting, homelessness will be the topic of discussion. We'll be providing various updates from the city, the county, bringing in other partners as we can. Our office, the mayor, has been working hard on diversifying our portfolio of different shelters that can be available to those that are unhoused. We are on track, and we have our goal of 2,000 shelter beds being online by early next year. That was compared to 1,000 that were operational as of April last year. So nearly double. Last time, I don't remember, but I wasn't able to make it last month, but a huge win that we were able to accomplish and that we were advocating for was Governor Newsom's Care Court proposal. This will help with conservatorship, a judge placing the affairs under our new chief behavioral health officer that was allocated within the city attorney's office, and then also with implementation from the county. That's it from me. Oh, last thing, this morning at city council, or earlier this afternoon, the civic center redevelopment was presented to city council, and as those updates are made, it's the various 6 blocks in downtown that we're looking to redevelop. Includes City Hall, Civic Center Plaza, 101 Ash. I'll be sure to relay to the group as well.
Thank you, Michaela. Any questions from Michaela?
Oh, I couldn't forget this. Next month, we're coordinating the groundbreaking for Salk. So once the date is finalized, I'll be sure to pass it along and hope that the planning group members can attend if they're available.
Sure. You know about when?
We proposed a date, see if the contractor can make it work, November 2nd or 3rd.
It is Salk, by the way. What is it?
Oh, so Salk Elementary is having a joint use field that we've been, so it'll be a groundbreaking for construction to start.
Kayla, are we notifying any of the residents that live around there about this project, or was that something you'd done 5 years ago when it got started?
What we can do is once a date is finalized, something new that we have asked the departments to use is like a 1-pager that gets mailed out to nearby residents. It invites them to the groundbreaking, for example, then also educates them about the project itself.
Yeah, I've talked to several people over there, and nobody knows anything about this thing other than, you know, what I'm giving them information on. And so, and I ran into the guy that has the house right next to where the entrance to this is, next to a Salk school. They have a language barrier going on there. They wouldn't even answer the door today. So
that's a good point.
Yeah.
Do they speak Vietnamese or Tagalog? Or
I would be afraid to say what it was.
okay. Well, we'll look into kind of different languages that we can
Yeah,
use.
definitely that one house, I think we should get somebody to go in there and tell them what's going to happen, because that's going to be a major impact on them.
Yeah, and just to educate the group, so a joint use field is one way that the city has been working with the school district to expand green space and access to fields with the various schools. So this is going to be an expansion at Salk Elementary School, where the public can then use the field. So the school can use it during the daytime, the public can use it after.
Yeah, we've been
Is
waiting
there,
for a long time. You know, it would be good to get a new design, the final design of it. Is that possible?
Oh yeah, I can follow up with that.
We were in various workshops years ago on this, looking at various designs, but I don't know what the final version.
And Michaela, just give you like Joe Frickel got a special award all about the tire rut vernal pools at Salk. So he's got a special diorama of tire rut, Starbucks coffees, dog turds, and cigarette butts. So he could be a perfect speaker for the opening of that particular area.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, Marvin, because I went out to the Ramona planning group last week and gave a talk on ferry trip because they're having the same problem right off of Main Street in Ramona. So
is there a project sign on the land there, and you can?
not yet. They were having problems with the multiple species habitat plan and the project design. They were overlapping areas. And so they stopped everything until they got a map, but I went out there today and they have it staked out where the problem was. So now everything should be ready to go. So they can start construction tomorrow, as far as I'm concerned.
I just meant like a plywood sign that says park coming soon sign, something like that. That's just a general announcement to the community. Because again, flyers are great, but you put a sign up there and opening coming soon, and then you can, when you get the date, you just update it to put the date on there.
How many
Well,
languages?
the problem there is there's not really a place where you can put something like that. You know, it's either on the school site or right next to this guy's house. It's really limited area. You got about
Tell you what, if
to
I
put
can
a
get
sign.
if I can get the plan for it, I can post it on the bulletin board that's down by the dog park.
That's
Oh,
funny because someone just direct messaged me that suggestion. So that'd be great. Thank you.
great minds.
And they're also doing work on where the dog park is. So they have all that staked out also because we're putting sage structures over all that, everything.
Right.
It's gonna be nice.
Any other questions for Michaela? Right, thanks, Michaela. Go on to Denise or Councilman Kate.
Good evening, everyone. Just a few updates on the things that I've followed up with city staff. There's still one light at the senior center that's non-working like a few weeks ago. So I did follow up with transportation department on getting that one fixed, and transportation responded back that an electrician was dispatched and fixed that one non-working light in the area. And then next, there was a traffic request for pedestrian safety improvements at Adderman Avenue and Mira Mesa Boulevard. So new updates regarding that those improvements is that the installation of the turning vehicle yield to pedestrian sign facing the north and southbound traffic. So the installation for that sign is in progress. And also the sign for left turns yield on green, that's also in progress. And also the no turn on red sign for northbound right turning vehicles to mitigate for limited sight distance. So that's also in progress. And the upgrade on the existing street lights to new LED street lights, that one is completed. And also lastly, the installation for the new Continental crosswalk and new limit line on the north leg. That one installation is also in progress. And then anybody else who are still experiencing water utility issues, please send me an email detailing the issue of concern and also stating the address, location, and your contact information on your email. And lastly, at the request of a member of the community, the city engineer evaluated the intersection of San Ramon Drive and Hebrides Drive for stop signs. And the intersection met the criteria for the installation of a stop sign along Hebrides Drive facing westbound traffic. And if you have any comments or concerns, please let me know before October 22nd. And if there are no comments received, city crew will proceed with the installation. And my email is ddtorres@sandiego.gov. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
That second street is called Hebrides.
Oh, sorry. Hebrides. Hebrides. Good to know.
Any questions for Denise? All right, thank you. We'll go on to Kristen Miramar.
Hi, evening, everybody. Oops, sorry, let me adjust that a little bit. Thank you to everybody who came out and supported the air show. We had a great turnout. I think it pretty much met all of our expectations as far as crowd size and not having one for a few years. So it was a great success. And thank you again to Michaela and Denise for helping get Kearneyville Road and Miramar roads cleaned up. That whole area just looks like an entirely new place. So thank you again. One thing that you'll probably be seeing here in the next week or so, probably our public affairs officers will be pushing out something on Twitter, and that is notifying the community about our counter unmanned aerial systems counter UAS system that we have on base, essentially to help protect the base from drone incursions, basically. So any drones found flying over base property are essentially subject to forfeiture. So, and that's really all I have for everybody, unless anybody has any questions for me.
Christian, is there a height limit on the drones? I mean, is that up to 500 feet or 3,000 feet? Is there a limit on that?
So this isn't my strongest policy area, but technically anywhere within Class Bravo airspace, anybody who's operating a drone should be doing so in coordination with the airport operator, which would be Miramar. So that would include areas off base. Now we're not necessarily using the system for areas off base. It would only cover anything that's directly above the base property.
Well, the approach to the base from the east is really critical so that they don't get ingested in an engine.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we've definitely had pilots on approach who have had, drone sightings and reported it. And of course, the law enforcement effort, that's a whole other discussion that's, tricky and problematic at best. So
what are you using to shoot them down?
Sam's.
I can't get into any of the specifics about the system or the capability. I just know that in the past where we've been talking to San Diego PD and we've reported something to them, they're never able to lay eyes on it again. So it's just a very, very unique problem.
Okay, I did want to add one thing. I noticed, Kristen, that you sent in a letter regarding the community plan, which said that although you don't object to the new housing, that all those developments in Serrano Mesa should be notified of the potential noise from Miramar overflights. When we did the 1992 update, the contours were far enough north that basically all of Serrano Mesa was was forbidden except for that one little piece by Water Ridge. Which is another reason it was all zoned as industrial, but now the noise contours have moved down to approximately Mira Mesa Boulevard, so that's why the city is able to put the housing farther north, but that doesn't mean there's no noise there. There's quite a lot of it.
Yeah, and that's definitely something that I spend quite a bit of time explaining to people, the relationship between our operational patterns and these land use documents that we use, for Miramart's, the ACUS program. And then obviously that's the, locally that's put into the LUCP. So yeah, that's really our, the military needs housing just like everybody else does, but that's our main concern with that new residential area. A lot of that will be directly underneath primary flight corridors.
Okay, any other questions for Kristen? Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
I did have one other thing. In addition to the plan update, I did send the committee a letter that I plan to submit on the draft PEIR that's due in a couple of days. Did anyone have any comments or corrections to that? If not, it replicates some of what we discussed today, but it's oriented a little differently in that it discusses things that are omissions in the EIR. So, okay, I'll go ahead and send that. Yeah. But we'll go on to announcements. Does anyone have announcements today?
Hey,
Yeah.
Jeff, I have one thing. I was out running around looking at parks today, and I went by San Ramon and Gold Coast. And there's a large building right there, was a house that looks like a barn. It's catty corner from Mason Elementary.
Yeah, right.
And the gentleman that lived there and built that sold it and moved out of town. And you'll never believe what is going on with the backyard. There is a 2-story structure there that looks, I mean, it's unbelievable. So I really want people to go by and look at this. And this is the future of Mira Mesa. And boy, what a sad future it looks like. This kind of stuff going up is really not good for us. It's San Ramon and Gold Coast. You can't miss the big building. It looks like an old barn. They've repainted everything. It really looks nice, but this 2-story addition next to it, it takes your breath away.
Well, many of us know the neighbor who lives right behind it, Jackie Nelson. She's been a very active member for years, and she's been beside herself because she has a little 1-story house, and just it's a long story short. She calls it a 3-story, but it's a very big, ugly house right behind her. So she's very upset, as any of us would be.
Yeah. The state law, unfortunately, has made this kind of thing legal, so there's not really any recourse. And that's one thing we don't, of course, didn't account for in the community plan update. It may well be that we'll get as much housing out of people building new development in their own yards as we do out of the update itself. So,
well, there's no setbacks anymore, so you can build right up to the 1 inch from the property line. I mean, it's you can just do whatever you want with your property now.
yeah. Okay, any other Pam?
Yeah, okay, well, shifting from grumbles to something we're happy about, on behalf of Mira Mesa Town Council, I want to remind everyone tomorrow, October 19th. Did I say that right? Yes, yeah, Tuesday, October
18th.
Or 18th. Oops, typo in our Facebook post then. Tuesday, October 18th, and it was my typo, not Barry's fault. Okay, Tuesday, October 18th is the last day to RSVP and pay online for the Mira Mesa Volunteer of the Year Dinner, honoring Jennifer Qualvick, one of our own, as Mira Mesa Volunteer of the Year for 2019. This dinner has been rescheduled from the spring of 2020. It's this coming Saturday, October 22nd. We're hoping there's not a schedule conflict with baseball. If there, I guess there is a game that day, but maybe it's a day game. And it starts the dinner at 6 p.m. at Casa Machado Restaurant overlooking the runways at Montgomery Field and goes until 8:30 p.m. Lots of fun. It's not just for town council members and Jennifer's immediate family. So if there's anybody here in planning group who's hearing about it for the first time, go online to the Mira Mesa Town Council website and click on through, and we hope to be able to see you at the dinner. You can find out all the details there. Thank you.
I'll add on to all of our members that also Pam had called Ted Brengel's widow, and she reminded us that's the 1-year anniversary of Ted passing away. So we'll have to keep him in our thoughts.
Good.
I talked with Helen, and she wasn't quite sure if she was going to be able to make it or not. So it's just to give you, just keep Ted in our thoughts.
Understand. And I will also call your attention to the bio of Jennifer that's posted on the town council website. I don't think we've updated that yet from where it says that she currently has 4 grandchildren and a 5th on the way. Let's change that to she has 5 grandchildren. Grandbaby number 5 arrived, I believe, last Friday. So
And I'll say one other thing here, I'm jumping in, but if everybody remembers the first, there was a big, what was it, kind of the show that we had, Miramar, was some Top Gun, was that it?
Mhm.
Anyways, the opening sentence was this guy's trying to land his aircraft on the aircraft carrier, and he's looking down and he's just scared to wet. And basically he's looking at this woman with a baby sitting on, that was his inspiration. That was Jennifer Pavlik. That's her, that's a picture of her. So
a picture of her. She was, one of the
she was not
extras.
in the cockpit, just a photo of her. Yes. Just, it's kind of one of those funny things, yes.
All right. Any other announcements?
I'll add one really quick, Jeff. As different hat, but I think many of you know that I've been part of a nonprofit for years called Pacific Arts Movement that presents the San Diego Asian Film Festival. It's something Vulcan supported over the years as well. And that's actually coming back November 3rd through 12th. We used to have a couple days in Mira Mesa at the Edwards. That has proven to be very challenging these days, especially because this year the end of the festival is right during the opening of Black Panther 2, which, if you can imagine, made reserving the Edwards near impossible. But it is taking place mostly at the Ultrastar down in Hazard Center, which is right next to a trolley stop, and then a couple days at UC San Diego. So I'll leave some information in the chat for those who are interested. And I'm exiting the organization, but I figured one last time I get to make a pitch for it. They moved as well. The nonprofit now is here in Mira Mesa, which has been new. As well. Yeah, they are on the eastern side near the 15 off of Black Mountain Carroll Center. So it's nice to be in D6.
All right. Thank you, Kent. Any other announcements? All right. Going on to community reports, CPC. It was a subcommittee that reviewed the land development code. They made a number of recommendations and we approved them. That was the main thing that happened at that meeting. Going to Penasquitos Canyon.
Okay, our last meeting was an unofficial meeting because we didn't have a quorum. So we just sort of brainstormed a few things about the preserve. One thing that came up is we found out that next year is going to be an anniversary year for the ranch house. And I believe the county has some plans for a festivity. So I can report more on that next time.
Thank you, Pam. All right, that's the end of the agenda. There were a few SCSU students who wanted to talk to me after the meeting. If you'll just hang around, everyone else can go and enjoy the rest of their evening. Thank you very much for coming.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night. Go Padres.
Go Padres.
Padres
Jeff.
beat those.
Jeff, this is Tiffany. Would you like me to stay on to take notes or?
Oh, no, you don't need to.
Okay, Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right, so students, what do you think of that?
It was very interesting. Thank you for participating.
Yeah, that was our first